8 emotional signs. Their heart is already yours, but they're afraid to show it. Old Stoic wisdom. Love is not loud. It does not boast. It is patient, and sometimes it hides, waiting for the one wise enough to see it. Xerxes adapted from Seneca. Every day, countless men walk past the love of their lives and never even know it. Not because it wasn't real, but because it wasn't loud. We're taught to look for passion that burns wild, words that overflow, gestures that scream affection. But in the real world, where hearts have been broken and walls have been built, love often wears silence like armor. What you're about to learn isn't guesswork. It's not mind games. It's the deeper truth, grounded in emotional intelligence and timeless wisdom. These are the subtle cues most men ignore because they've never been taught to notice them. Old Stoics believed that wisdom isn't about controlling others. It's about mastering yourself. And in that mastery, you begin to see what others overlook. You begin to feel the truth that words won't say. That's what today's about. Becoming the kind of man who doesn't just chase love, but recognizes it, even when it hides. So if you're ready to understand what most never do, to avoid the regret of missed chances and misunderstood signals, keep listening. This is for men who are done guessing, for men who want to know. And if this speaks to you, consider supporting the mission. Because there are men out there, just like you, who are walking blind through the most important moments of their lives. Let's change that. Now, let's get into it. Would you recognize love if it was afraid to speak? Would you feel it if it was buried beneath silence, pride, or past pain? Most wouldn't. Most don't. But after today, you won't be one of them. 1. Subconscious loyalty. When a man's heart belongs to you, you might not hear it spoken aloud or see it declared with grand gestures, but you will feel it in the quiet, unwavering rhythm of his actions. And one of the clearest signs is subconscious loyalty. This isn't the loyalty that demands applause or recognition. It's the kind that shows up in the background almost invisibly when it matters most. Think of it like an old, trusted compass. It always points toward you, even when the journey gets rough. When life throws its inevitable storms, and you find yourself in the midst of emotional fog, confused, stressed, maybe even isolated, pay attention not to who says they'll be there, but to who is. The real measure of a man's emotional bond often reveals itself in these subtle moments. It's the friend who cancels a golf game he's been looking forward to just to sit with you in silence. It's the brother who answers your late-night call without irritation. It's the colleague who senses your fatigue and quietly picks up the slack. These gestures often come without fanfare or acknowledgement, not because they are insignificant, but because for them, being there for you feels as natural as breathing. The beauty and mystery of subconscious loyalty lies in how unspoken it often is. It's not the loud declaration of devotion, but the quiet rearrangement of priorities. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." And that's exactly what these men do. They don't perform loyalty, they live it, often without realizing it themselves. Their attachment isn't transactional, it isn't calculated or conditional. It's rooted in a deep emotional alignment, one where your well-being subtly but profoundly becomes part of theirs. Over time, their consistent presence forms a mosaic of trust, a pattern that whispers louder than words. I've got you. You might wonder if these repeated gestures are just coincidence, but pay closer attention. What you're really witnessing is a heart that's already made its decision, even if its owner hasn't found the courage to confess it. And yet, this fear, this quiet resistance to vulnerability, doesn't diminish the loyalty. It deepens its authenticity. Real-life loyalty often resembles this quiet type more than the cinematic kind. In a world where appearances are curated and affection is often performative, true emotional attachment is rare, and that's exactly what makes it powerful. When a man makes sacrifices without needing to talk about them, when he's present without being prompted, when he carries your pain quietly in his own heart, that's not random kindness. That's emotional commitment cloaked in humility. And it should make you pause, because once you begin to recognize this kind of loyalty, you'll start to see which relationships in your life are anchored in something deep and unshakable, and which ones are only floating on the surface. Epictetus once said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Subconscious loyalty is just that, the embodiment of silent devotion. So here's my advice to you. Don't dismiss the quiet ones. Don't overlook the man who simply shows up. His silence might not be lack of emotion, but the very proof of it. And if you find yourself lucky enough to be on the receiving end of this kind of loyalty, honor it, not by demanding words, but by recognizing the truth behind his consistent actions. What do you think? Have you ever experienced this kind of loyalty? Or perhaps, have you given it without saying a word? Share your thoughts in the comments. Your story might help someone else finally recognize the love that's been there all along, hidden in plain sight. 2. Emotional reactivity. When a woman reacts emotionally in your presence, when her tone shifts, when her eyes flash with something unspoken, when she withdraws only to return colder, sharper, more guarded, it is not random. It is not weakness. It is not drama. It is evidence. Evidence that her heart has already crossed a line she's not ready to admit. Most men will never see this. They'll misinterpret it, run from it, mock it, or worse, blame her for it. But the wise man sees through the storm. He knows emotional reactivity is one of the deepest, rawest signs that someone cares beyond what their pride allows them to say out loud. This is where ancient wisdom becomes razor-sharp in modern life. The Stoics didn't avoid emotion. They trained to master the reaction, not the feeling. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." And sometimes bravery isn't fighting the world, it's daring to feel without defense. When she reacts, she's not being irrational. She's being overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by care, overwhelmed by love she doesn't know how to manage, overwhelmed by fear that you'll slip away while she's still pretending she's fine. Make no mistake, if she were indifferent, she'd stay calm. She'd be polite, cold, logical. Her voice wouldn't raise, her eyes wouldn't follow you when you talk to someone else. Her energy wouldn't shift when she senses distance. Indifference is composed. Indifference is dead. But this heat, this edge in her voice, this silence after your words cut deeper than you intended, that's not drama. That's devotion, struggling to breathe. She doesn't want to show it. She probably hates herself for reacting at all. She might try to cover it with sarcasm, distraction, even anger, but it's all just armor. Armor for a heart that's already yours, and terrified you won't realize it. When a woman reacts, it's not the moment that hurt her, it's everything that moment reminded her of. It's fear, it's vulnerability, it's hope fighting shame, and love trying not to look like weakness. Most men will never understand this. They'll get offended, they'll accuse her of overreacting, and they'll walk away proud of their composure, blind to the fact they just abandoned a woman who was battling herself, not to show how much she cared. That is the failure of modern masculinity, confusing control for courage and silence for strength. The man who truly gets it, the man who is anchored, present, awake, knows better. He knows that emotional reactivity is the soul screaming through the cracks of a guarded heart. That jealousy isn't pettiness, it's proof. That irritation isn't annoyance, it's fear. That silence isn't distance, it's protection. A woman who doesn't care won't fight, won't flinch, won't feel. But a woman who does, she'll react before she even knows why. Because love isn't always kind at first. Sometimes it's clumsy. Sometimes it shows up as frustration. Sometimes it's disguised as defensiveness. But it's always real. You want to be powerful? Then don't just read this. Apply it. Next time you feel a shift in her tone, stop. Look deeper. Ask yourself, what is she really trying to say that her pride won't let her voice? Be the man who doesn't just see the behavior, but understands the meaning. Because any fool can judge what they see. But only a leader, only a man who's conquered himself can lead through what others fear. This is your challenge. This is your initiation. You don't need to control her reactions. You need to decode them. Understand that her volatility is not a threat. It's a signal. It means you matter. It means she's invested. And if you have even half the emotional strength you claim to have, you won't shrink in the face of it. You'll rise, you'll hold space, you'll lead, and you'll earn a loyalty no calm conversation ever could have given you. As Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. So how will you react now that you know? Now that you've seen behind the mask? Like this message, share it with a brother who needs to hear it. And if you've ever misread a woman's reactivity before, own it, grow from it. In the comments, declare your awareness with power. Her storm reveals her soul. Let the world know you're not here to play games. You're here to understand, to lead, and to love at the level only the strong ever reach. 3. Protectiveness. Protectiveness is one of the purest, most instinctive signs of real love, and it's something that can't be faked. It's primal, built deep into human nature. When someone genuinely cares about you, their first reaction when they see you threatened, hurt, overwhelmed, or simply uncomfortable isn't to step back. It's to step closer. Even if they barely understand their own feelings, even if they are terrified of admitting how much you mean to them, their instinct to protect you will slip out before their mind has a chance to stop it. They'll worry about your safety. They'll check in when something feels off. They'll notice when you're tired, stressed, or carrying burdens too heavy to mention. And they'll do small things, sometimes even clumsily, sometimes teasingly, to make sure you're okay. It's not always heroic or obvious. Protectiveness often hides behind humour. They might make sarcastic jokes about you needing to be careful. They might pretend they're giving you a hard time, but underneath the words, their actions tell a different story. When you're cold, they'll offer you their jacket without making it a big moment. When you're upset, they'll find a way to distract you, to lift the weight off your shoulders without asking you to explain everything. When you're facing a tough situation, they'll stand a little closer, keep a watchful eye, or quietly make sure you're not facing it alone. Protectiveness doesn't scream, it acts. Real protectiveness comes from a place of deep emotional investment. It's a natural extension of seeing you as part of their own world, their own territory. When you hurt, they feel it. When you're threatened, something inside them demands to shield you, even if all they can do is offer small comforts. And the beautiful thing is, they often don't even realize how obvious they're being. It's reflexive. It's built into the emotional bond they have with you, a bond they may not be ready to speak about, but one they are absolutely living out with their actions. Most men miss this sign because they are trained to look for dramatic gestures, for loud professions of love, for big moments. But true emotional protectiveness isn't about drama. It's about instinct. It shows up in ordinary, quiet, everyday ways. It's offering you support without you having to ask. It's caring about your peace of mind when everyone else overlooks it. It's reacting emotionally when something threatens your happiness, even if they cover it with sarcasm or pretend it's no big deal. When you see someone subtly stepping up for you, whether it's shielding you from discomfort, protecting your reputation when you're not there to defend yourself, or quietly standing by you when life gets messy, you are seeing the real language of love. It's the language of actions, not words. The truth is simple. When someone's heart is involved, protecting you becomes automatic. They don't choose it, they feel it. And if you pay attention to these moments, you'll see the truth they might be too afraid to say out loud, that your pain has become their pain, and your well-being has become their silent priority. 4. Attentive listening. In an age where constant distractions dominate our lives, where conversations are routinely interrupted by buzzing phones, wandering minds, and the relentless urge to reply before truly understanding, there is one quiet, powerful gesture that speaks volumes without uttering a single word: attentive listening. And for men between 35 and 70, who have spent years navigating relationships, careers, and personal growth, recognizing this subtle but profound emotional signal is crucial. When a woman listens with genuine presence, it's not just courtesy, it's a revelation. She's not just hearing your words, she's absorbing your emotions, tuning into your energy, and reading the pauses between your sentences like a seasoned scholar decoding ancient wisdom. This isn't something you can fake. As the old Stoics believed, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. True listening is a spiritual act, a reflection of disciplined attention that goes beyond habit and into the realm of affection. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the colour of its thoughts, and when her soul is focused on you, dyed in your colours, it shows in how attentively she listens." She may not shout her feelings from rooftops or craft poetic confessions, but if she sets her phone aside the moment you begin to speak, if she angles her body toward you like a sunflower toward the sun, if her eyes don't just meet yours but rest there, then you're witnessing one of the most sincere forms of love. Because real love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet, patient, and deeply observant. A woman emotionally invested doesn't just pick up on what you say, she senses what you're afraid to admit. She'll detect that slight hesitation when you talk about your father, the softness that enters your voice when you mention your child, or the weariness you carry behind your smile. These aren't things the average listener catches, but she does. Not because she's nosy, but because she cares deeply, silently, and consistently. For men who've been taught to look for dramatic gestures or chase validation through obvious signs, flowers, long texts, or declarations, this kind of subtle devotion can be overlooked. But here's the wisdom. Grand gestures fade, but enduring attention does not. That's why Epictetus taught, we are disturbed not by what happens to us, but by our thoughts about what happens. When you believe love must look a certain way, you might miss the quiet miracle sitting right across from you, nodding gently, eyes focused, heart present. That kind of listening is not performative, it's devotional. It says, you matter to me, in a language far more eloquent than words. So my advice to you, brother, is simple yet profound. Pay attention to how she listens. Don't get distracted by what's loud and obvious. Instead, honor what's quiet and real. Because if you find a woman who listens like this, you're not just having a conversation, you're being seen. And in a world where most people are starving to be truly understood, that kind of attention is sacred. It is stoic love in action, steady, undemanding, but immensely powerful. If you've experienced this kind of listening, or if you're just beginning to notice it, share your story in the comments. Your insight might just help another man realize what his heart has been quietly waiting to feel. And if this resonates with you, drop a comment right now. I honor the quiet love that truly sees me. Like this video, subscribe for more timeless stoic wisdom, and remember, real love doesn't shout, it listens, it stays. 5. Remembering tiny details. Memory is not random. It's a mirror that reflects emotional priority. Our minds are flooded with thousands of pieces of information every single day, but we only hold on to the things that matter to us. We forget what's irrelevant. We forget what doesn't touch us emotionally. But when someone remembers the small things about you, the random facts, the casual comments, the little details you didn't even think were important, it's a signal you cannot afford to miss. It's a sign that you are living inside their mind, even when they don't consciously realize it. Maybe it's remembering your favorite coffee order without asking twice. Maybe it's bringing up a funny story you mentioned once months ago. Maybe it's knowing the name of your childhood pet, or remembering that you said you hated a certain type of music. These tiny details may seem meaningless on the surface, but they are loaded with emotional significance. When someone cares deeply, they lock on to these fragments of you because emotionally, you have become a priority in their mind. Their brain is not trying to memorize facts, it's holding on to pieces of you. And the more fragments they store, the clearer it becomes that your presence is taking up real space inside their world. It's effortless for them. They don't sit down and study facts about you like it's a test. These details stick naturally because caring makes remembering automatic. Men who miss this are men who constantly question whether someone is genuine. They wait for loud declarations of love, for big, showy moments. But real emotional connection often reveals itself in the smallest, quietest ways. If someone is consistently remembering the things about you that no one else even notices, it's not coincidence. It's not politeness. It's emotional investment working silently in the background. And the power of this is massive because memory builds trust. Every time they recall something small you said, they are proving that your words aren't just passing through them. They're being held, valued, protected. If you pay attention to this, you'll stop wondering how someone feels about you. You'll already know. You'll see it in the way they recall moments you barely even registered as important. You'll feel it in the way they carry pieces of your life alongside their own. And in a world full of distractions and self-obsession, when someone makes the quiet effort to remember the small things about you, it's one of the purest signs that their heart is already tied to yours, whether they've admitted it or not. 6. Seeking proximity. There's a quiet kind of truth that only distance can reveal, something deeper than what words, smiles, or polite conversation can ever show. You see, a man can sit next to you and play it cool, laugh at the right times, make eye contact just enough to seem interested, but it's when you're gone, when your presence is no longer within arm's reach, that something raw and honest surfaces. If he starts to shift in his own skin, if he seems less settled, less complete, it's not performance, it's emotional gravity. It's not about what he's willing to show, it's about what he can no longer hide. This kind of discomfort doesn't come from habit or obligation, it comes from a bond he may not even realize he's formed. That emotional tether tugs at him when you're not around, pulling him back not out of logic, but longing. And it shows in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. The way he finds reasons to see you, calls over trivial matters, or sends that text that feels unnecessary on the surface, but deep down carries the weight of missing you. In modern life, we're quick to overlook these small gestures. We dismiss the call as coincidence, the casual invitation as routine, the lingering look as absent-mindedness. But if you slow down and pay attention, there's a pattern. He chooses your company when he doesn't have to. He reaches out not because there's something to say, but because silence between you feels too far. This is not about grand romantic displays or poetic confessions. This is Stoic wisdom in action, the quiet way a man whose heart is already spoken for tries to stay close without giving himself away. And that's the paradox of emotional strength. Sometimes the strongest emotions are hidden under the calmest expressions. A man raised on the old values of control, composure, and stoicism may never admit how much your absence unsettles him, but his habits will tell on him. Look for the way his energy shifts when you re-enter the room, how he seems a little more at ease, how conversation flows more easily, how laughter returns with less effort. That is the emotional compass he's not even holding. It's steering him without permission, and it's in those repeated small actions, calling just to check in, inviting you to something without much context, lingering a bit longer than needed, that you see the truth. These are not isolated acts of coincidence. These are his instincts reaching out, and over time those instinctive gestures form a clear, undeniable trail. So if you're a man wondering whether someone's heart is already yours, don't waste time looking for declarations. Look at how they behave when they're forced to be apart from you. Look at how quickly they try to close the gap. Because when a person's inner compass keeps turning them back toward you, without logic, without prompting, even without acknowledgement, that's not just affection. That's attachment. That's emotional muscle memory. And if you recognize it, you'll stop questioning whether you matter to them. You'll understand that the real sign of emotional connection isn't always presence, it's how deeply your absence is felt. In a world that often prizes grand romantic gestures, it's these quiet, consistent behaviours that whisper the loudest truths. that your place in their life is not temporary, and your bond is already rooted in the parts of them they haven't yet dared to speak. If you've made it this far, you already understand something most people miss. True connection doesn't shout, it pulls silently, persistently, even when pride won't let it speak. Comment below. I now see the truth in the quiet ways they reach for me. Let others know you're tuned into the signs that matter and that you're done overlooking what their silence has been trying to say. 7. Emotional inconsistency. Emotional inconsistency is often misread by many men, especially those raised with the old-school Stoicism that taught us to look for clarity, control, and consistency as signs of truth. So when a woman seems hot one moment and cold the next, it's natural to assume the worst. She's not serious. She's playing games. She's leading you on. That jump to judgment isn't just a misunderstanding. It's a missed opportunity to see the quiet war happening within her. Emotional inconsistency isn't manipulation. It's vulnerability in disguise. It's a clash between her yearning to let her guard down and the instinct to shield her heart from the wreckage of past hurts. One moment, she's radiant, laughing at your jokes, holding eye contact a second longer than necessary, her whole body leaning towards you like a sunflower reaching for the sun. In that instant, her heart is winning. She's allowing herself to believe in the safety of your presence, to taste the intimacy she secretly longs for. But then, almost as if the warmth of that moment startled her, she shifts. She withdraws, changes the subject, checks her phone. It's jarring. And if you're not tuned in, you'll take it personally. You'll think she's changed her mind, lost interest, or is trying to mess with your head. But what you're witnessing is her internal alarm system kicking in, triggered not by disinterest, but by how deeply she's beginning to care. For a man steeped in logic and action, this might seem counterintuitive, but remember the old Stoic wisdom. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Her imagination is haunted by the ghosts of past disappointments, and they whisper caution in her ear. Every time she opens up, even slightly, those whispers grow louder. Don't fall for this. Remember what happened last time. Her reaction isn't about you, it's about her emotional survival, and yet, the inconsistency is the very proof that you matter more than she can say. A woman who doesn't care will remain consistent, consistently distant, that is. She won't waver, because there's no emotional charge to trigger the battle within her. But when she's drawn to you, when she starts to see you not just as a possibility, but as a real emotional risk, that's when the tug-of-war begins. She moves closer, then panics. She reaches out, then retreats. This isn't to confuse you. It's a raw signal that she's trying to figure out whether she can finally exhale around you. And here's where your strength as a man is most needed. Not in charging ahead or demanding clarity, but in providing calm in her storm. Your role isn't to fix her or decode her every move. It's to become the kind of presence that makes her fear look silly in hindsight. Show her not by lofty declarations, but by your steady energy that you're not another mistake waiting to happen. Be there when she pulls away, not to chase, but to remain rooted, unshaken. Understand that her emotional inconsistency is a question posed in the only language she currently knows. Can I really be safe with you? And how you answer that, not with words, but with patience and quiet strength, can determine everything. So in the modern world of swipe-left attachment and performative affection, this kind of emotional dance might feel frustrating, but those who understand it, who recognize it as a sign of emotional depth, not flightiness, stand a chance of building something real. Emotional inconsistency isn't a test of your masculinity. It's a call to rise into a deeper kind of manhood, one not threatened by fear, but trusted to walk beside it. 8. Silent support. In a world obsessed with visibility, where actions are only considered valuable if they're public, loud, and dramatic, there is a rare, sacred form of love that moves in shadows. Silent support. This is the person who watches you from a quiet distance, not because they don't care, but because they care more than they can admit. When you struggle, they don't rush to the spotlight with advice or grand interventions. Instead, they quietly shift their life to lessen your burden, never asking for recognition. They send that article they think might help you, not with a speech, but with a thought you'd find this useful. They hold back opinions, not out of indifference, but out of deep respect for your journey. They let you breathe, they let you wrestle, but they never truly leave. Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Silent supporters live this out, not through words, but through presence. They don't ask for attention. They simply adapt themselves to be what you need before you know you need it. And that's what makes it real. This kind of emotional presence often goes unnoticed, especially by men who've been trained to measure love by intensity rather than integrity. But if you pay attention, you'll feel the difference. Silent support isn't passive. It's intentional. It's the person who quietly defends you when others criticize. It's the one who subtly changes their schedule to align with yours. It's the one who never complains about the effort because their care isn't a transaction. It's a quiet vow. When someone is constantly, consistently making your life a little easier without needing to be seen for it, that's not just kindness. That's love in its most grounded form. It doesn't scream. It steadies. It shows up. So how do you recognize this love? Look for the ones who don't flinch when you're in your worst state, the ones who don't run when things get messy, the ones who aren't afraid of your silence, your bad days, or your confusion. Because real love doesn't need a spotlight to exist. It just needs presence. If someone is loving you in this way, silently, faithfully, without needing a stage, understand the value of what you're witnessing. It's rare, it's rooted, and it's real. And if you've been that silent supporter for someone else, let this be your reminder. Your love has been seen, even if it hasn't been spoken. Comment below. I recognize the power of silent support. Let this message reach the ones who need to feel the love they've been afraid to show. And remember, stillness isn't absence, it's strength in disguise. 9. Lingering eye contact. Sometimes the deepest confessions are never spoken. They're simply held in a glance, a pause, a moment that stretches longer than logic allows. Eye contact, true, unguarded eye contact, is one of the most vulnerable acts a guarded heart can offer. And when someone holds your gaze just a second too long, when their eyes flicker with something they quickly try to mask, you're not imagining it. You're witnessing a moment where their heart nearly spoke. We live in a world of avoidance, where people scroll past connection, talk without meaning, and look without seeing. So when someone dares to meet your eyes, not casually, but with presence, it's not just a look, it's a signal. Seneca once said, "A great mind becomes a great soul when it learns to observe in silence." And in that silence between words, between breaths, when their eyes stay on yours, what they can't say out loud leaks through the silence. It might come during a joke, when their smile fades, but their eyes don't. It might happen when you're vulnerable, and they look at you with something closer to awe than pity. It might catch you off guard, when they think you're not looking, but their gaze lingers just a little too long. This isn't about seduction. This is about truth, about the soul pulling towards something it hasn't named yet. Because when someone's heart is already yours, but their fear holds them back, the eyes often become the only honest part left. They don't lie, they can't. And when they look away quickly after meeting your eyes, that's not disinterest, that's exposure. That's the panic of being seen too clearly. So if you're the kind of man who pays attention, not just to what's said, but to what's shown, you'll start to notice. And once you do, you'll never unsee it. You'll begin to read the language of the eyes, the quiet cries for closeness that pride won't allow to be spoken. Don't underestimate this. Don't dismiss it. Because in the realm of Stoic wisdom, real strength isn't about speaking loudly. It's about seeing clearly. And there is nothing clearer than a soul trying not to be seen, but failing beautifully in the moment the eyes forget to lie. Comment below. I've learned to hear what the eyes won't say. And if this resonated with you, subscribe and share this with someone walking blind through the loud world, missing the silent truth staring them in the face. Because sometimes the longest love stories begin with a glance that lasted 1 second too long. And that brings us to the end, my brother. If you're still here, it tells me something powerful about you. You're not just another man scrolling past real insight. You're one of the few who stay, who listen, who finish what they start. That matters. In a world full of noise, distraction, and half-truths, it says a lot when someone shows up with presence and attention. Let me leave you with this. Most men miss the quiet signs. They miss the loyalty hidden in silence. They don't hear the body language that speaks louder than any words ever could. They walk away from the rarest kind of love, not because it wasn't real, but because they didn't know how to see it. Don't be that man. Be the one who sees. Be the one who understands. Be the one who doesn't need permission to feel deeply, to recognize connection, to trust the signs that others ignore. When you master that, when you stop waiting for perfect clarity and start listening with your whole being, you'll never wonder again if someone cares. You'll know, and that knowing will change how you love, how you lead, and how you live. If this message spoke to something real in you, I want you to comment empowered below. That word tells me who you are. That tells me you're not just curious, you're committed. And I want to know who the committed ones are. I want to know who's walking this path with me. And if this gave you value today, support this channel. Subscribe, share it with a brother who needs to hear what you just heard. When you support, you're not just helping me, you're helping thousands of men out there who may never come across this kind of truth unless you put it in their path. You're not alone in this. You're part of something larger, a growing brotherhood of men who refuse to walk blind through the most important connections of their lives. Men who are tired of being numb, confused, or disconnected, and ready to reclaim something ancient, something powerful, emotional clarity, grounded strength, and love that doesn't run. So keep going. This is just the beginning. Keep learning, keep seeing. And whatever you do, don't miss the kind of love that only comes once. Until next time, be good to yourself, lead with courage, and never forget, the heart sees more than the eyes ever will. Take care, my friend. I'll see you in the next one.